Hey, Go Knucklers, it is Flo, and welcome back to Go Knuckle Talk with Flo. Before I introduce my co host and our guest, remember when you're on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also leave a comment. So, let me introduce my co host, as I mentioned, Lisa Nolan Hafner. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Flo. How are you?
Oh, hold on. Someone's peeking over there. Someone's peeking on the side over there. But anyway, Lisa, who do we have tonight?
We have a really fun group of young ladies tonight, a special group. I'd like to welcome Miss Jeanne Pennell, the famous Miss Jeanne Pennell, Susanne and Jeanne Marie Hogge-Ellis. So, welcome, ladies. Yay! We're so excited to have you tonight. And before we start, I just want we've done this for an entire year. And for an entire year, when you introduce me, I always say, "Hi, Michael." I have never called you Flo. And I thought, I'm not doing that anymore. So I said, "Hi, Flo." You can
Did
use
you? I didn't realize. Well, okay. Well, good.
We call each other all sorts of other names too that we cannot mention on this show.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're so excited about this special edition and especially to have you, Jeanne Pennell. And don't be nervous,
Oh,
we're here to have a good time. So I'm going to ask you where you are living now.
you're asking me where I'm living?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm living in Plainview, Texas, and
Okay.
I'm living in the same house that I lived in when I taught both of these girls.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
that's amazing. And would you like to share with our viewers what year you graduated high school?
I graduated in 1958.
Woohoo! Okay. Suzanne, what year did you graduate and where are you living now?
I graduated in 1981 and I'm living in Lubbock.
Okay. And Jeannie Marie?
I am living in Lakeway, Texas, and I graduated in 1983.
Yay, class of
With us. So, hey, before we get started, I want to give props to Linda Perkins, uh, Linda Gaither Perkins, and she's the one who helped me to get Miss Pennell to join us. So, Linda, hello.
Hello, Michael and Lisa and Suzanne and Jeannie.
So,
I
thank
think
you.
she's more nervous than I am.
Yes, thank you very much for helping get Miss Pennell to agree to come on to come on our show. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, oh, when did you graduate, Linda?
1985.
Okay, and you guys have something special this year, don't y'all?
Yes, we have our 40th year reunion this year that we're working on right now.
Well, good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to ask your classmates who are on the committee to join us, and let's promote your reunion.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That
We'll
would be
do it.
great.
Well,
Last year's class that had their 40th reunion, we had the planning committee on.
Yes, I saw it. It was
Yes.
great.
and next week we're going to have the all school reunion committee on. So
Oh, okay.
anyway, well, thank you, Linda.
Okay. Y'all have fun.
All right, Lisa.
Okay. Well, Jeannie won. All inquiring minds want to know what inspired you to start twirling.
When I was 4 or 5 years old, as I did still live in Plainview, and we had just gone to a parade, and I had a brand new camera, and all my pictures were of twirlers that were in the parade. And in that day, towns around all came to the parades. And so there were a lot of bands and lots of twirlers. And so I went home and I found a stick and I marched up and down Columbia. I lived between 8th and 9th on Columbia, and I pretended to be a twirler. So I'm sure my mother noticed that. And later I'll tell you about how I got started.
Well, tell us now.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a long story. Remember, I'm very old. And I did just get off of the Mayflower when I graduated from high school. So I don't know really where to start. I twirled in OT's band. OT was my first band director, and I started in Central School. And we used to walk from Central to Ash Street. At that time was junior high school. And we worked in the boiler room, and we were always scared to death the boiler was going to blow up because it made all kinds of noise. Then we'd walk back to our school, which was a grade school. So it was first through the sixth grade. And OT started me in band then. I started in summer school with OT and then in Central School. So when I went to junior high, I twirled for OT as a majorette. There were 4 of us in junior high that twirled together. And we also went on to high school and twirled for Chief Davidson. The band hall is named Ryan Davidson for our 2 most famous band directors. And I also taught YMCA twirling. That was my first teaching. I taught in my sophomore year. I taught in my sophomore year. I taught YMCA program, and then my junior and senior year, Audra Watson, one of my best friends, and I both taught the YMCA. Then I went on to Tech.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, who taught you though? Who taught you how to twirl?
Okay, in YMCA, Sue Young and Gay Ashby Thompson now. Sue passed away in about 2 years ago, I guess. But Gay Ashby is still here and lived in Plainview for a while. But those were the 2 teachers. And my mother let me take private lessons from Sue. And we twirled out in front of her front yard, and Bill Woods lived across the street. So I worked with Bill Woods also. And I mean, on and on. It goes on and on. Because when I started teaching, I started taking more lessons. So it goes way back. And I don't know how far you want me to go.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you get paid in high school when you were teaching?
I did. I got 50 cents an hour. I was rich.
And how long, can you recall how long did you, was it an hour long teaching or
Yes.
2 hours? It was an hour?
Yes, 1 hour.
Okay. And did you do a group of girls or you do it individually?
At that time, I did private lessons, just individually. And I started out with my neighbors, 2 of my neighbors, and Susie's mother, Virginia Rogers, Virginia Bobby at that time, was one of my first students, if not my first.
Oh, wow.
Susie, did you know that?
I knew that she was right up there at the beginning of it. So
She was. She
Yeah.
lived next door to me. And I had holes in the grass where I practiced all the time. So she saw me practice all the time. And your dad's sister was another one of mine, and she lived across the street. But I didn't know if you knew that your mom was one of my first.
Well, they talk about watching you outside practice until the sun went down, and then you finally went inside.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I was out there in the dark. My twirlers could never say that they practiced as much as me.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, they say
Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, perfect practice makes perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect practice makes perfect. Absolutely.
Yes, and also the teacher is always a student as well. Like you never
Yeah.
stop. when
I
you're-
never stop learning, and I tell everyone I know that's interested, don't ever stop learning, no matter what you do, even if it's marbles, don't stop learning.
That's wonderful. Well, I hear through the grapevine that when you were teaching, you continued using your front yard.
Oh my goodness, yes. My dad didn't like me to be out in the front yard with shorts on, but I still did when he was at work.
Oh, sounds like my dad, for sure. So all together, how many years did you teach starting from high school?
Oh, starting from high school, it would have to be 64 years.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
I don't know
very
how that
impressive.
happened. I'm just 29. And so I don't know how it happened.
That's a lot older than Lisa and I, and Jeannie, and
I'm
possibly
afraid
Suzanne.
so.
It's getting close
And I
to mine.
think that, Michael, I think you were in band when I taught flags and twirlers too, were you not?
Yes, I was the same age. Lisa and I had graduated with J2, Jeannie Marie.
Okay.
So we were the same class.
Okay.
So,
Yes,
but
I remember you out there. I was a cheerleader all through.
Okay.
So I remember seeing you out there with these girls, and
Screaming and hollering, probably.
no, I just always admired you from afar, and you know what a good. I was observant to your teaching capacity, and obviously watching classmates and how good they were. I was just always in awe. I bought a baton, I don't know, maybe in junior high, and it was not for me. I clocked my head too many times. I thought, yeah, this is not for me. But I tried. I certainly tried.
so Jeannie Marie, when did you start taking lessons from Miss Pennell?
8 years old. And Mama told me that it was probably the summer, maybe the YMCA program. I don't know if you remember, Jeannie. I don't really remember. She said I took in the park. Fanchen said she started.
We practiced in the park all the time,
Okay.
but we also practiced in front of my house. And you started in my den at my house. And the couch is still where it was in the living room.
Yeah, I thought that. And I know Fanchen and I started the same time. And I remember that. I remember doing the basic strut in that den.
Well, it didn't have any furniture in it. It was completely empty.
Yeah.
It was my twirling room. That was why I bought that house.
Yeah.
Oh, did it have tall ceilings, like 20 feet, 30
Oh,
feet?
no. I wish it had, but it needed to. That's why we ended up out in the front yards.
Did you have a lot of holes on top of in the ceiling?
Yes.
Or in the side walls?
Well,
What about
you
you?
can still see some bruises.
What about you, Suzanne? When did you start taking lessons from Miss Pennell?
I started when she came back to Plainview and started teaching, and I was in second grade. And
1972.
yes, and my aunt, Geneva, is the one who hooked me up. She said, I want you to take twirling lessons and I'm going to pay for them. And if the truth be known, I think she really never paid for a lesson, but that's a good story.
Now you tell me.
Jeannie knows exactly what I'm talking about with that, but that's okay.
With interest, Miss Pennell, she probably owes you about 150 grand.
Oh, trust
That's
it. Well,
going to add up.
and then
And
later,
interest is going up now.
I know. I heard it's more than 50 cents. Well, whenever I was in junior high and high school, my dad would go down, even at Jeannie's house when she was at her house, he would do odds and ends jobs for her. And when she was at the barnyard, he would fix the plumbing or whatever needed to be done. He would go down, and that was kind of a Susie can twirl here if Paul Ray will fix the stuff that needs to be.
He fixed a lot of stuff for me.
He did.
Sinks, commodes, furnaces, everything.
Wow.
I
Well,
couldn't have done without him.
Suzanne, you mentioned when she moved back to Plainview. Miss Pennell, where did you move to? And how long were you gone?
Well, I went to Tech, and I twirled at Tech. And then I went to, my husband was in dental school in Houston. So I moved to Houston for 4 years. And I taught just an easy bit in Houston and not much. And then we went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I went to Clarksville, Tennessee to a twirling camp. That was in Clarksville. And when they heard that I was a Texas Tech twirler, they just had a fit. They thought it was
Oh,
wonderful, and they were excited about that. And then I also judged tryouts on post at Fort Campbell, 101st Airborne Division. And then after we got out of the service, we moved to Dumas. And in Dumas, I happened to know the band director's wife. And some way, I can't remember the connection, but she knew that I was a twirling teacher. And so they asked me to teach the high school and junior high twirlers in Dumas, which I did. And later, my daughter was feature twirler in Dumas.
oh, cool.
And then after Dumas, I moved to Plainview. And then I started teaching private lessons, competition twirling, as quite a few twirlers. And Virginia's mother, Suzanne's mother, Virginia Bobby Rogers, was one of the people that convinced OT that I was the very one to teach. OT knew I twirled in junior high, high school, and probably tech, but he didn't know that I continued to teach twirling camps. I taught 17 years at Benny's and Arts twirling camp at Lake Brownwood Christian Retreat. That probably rings a bell for you, Michael. And then I taught 5 years at WT. OT, though, I think Virginia had to let him know all of this because he wanted someone that was up to date and could teach. That was a good teacher. So Virginia stretched it probably and decided that I would be the one to teach. And so we finally twisted OT's arm and I got to teach the twirlers. High
Good.
school had like 3 bands at that time and they all had twirlers, and junior high. So I taught all those twirlers.
So it was 17 years later, and then you started teaching in Plainview from tech.
I'm not sure. I can't do math that well.
Okay, that's
I'm
okay.
not sure. It was a lot of years. In 72, I moved back.
Okay. Well, you mentioned you lived in Houston. I currently live outside of Houston in Hempstead.
Okay.
Where in Houston did you guys live?
I worked next door to Neiman Marcus.
Oh, the Galleria.
Across the street from, no, this was in 60 to 64. I don't even know if the Galleria was there.
Probably
I was
not, yeah.
downtown.
Oh, okay,
Main
okay.
Street, and I worked across the street from Woolworths and next door to Neiman Marcus. Down the street from Foley's and Sakowitz.
Oh, wow.
Didn't have any money though. We were in dental school. So we couldn't afford anything.
So did you live in Midtown or did you live outside of downtown?
Just off of a freeway, and that made it easy to get to work. And we were in a carpool.
Okay.
Several girls worked downtown. And so I was in a carpool. One thing I learned, you always have an umbrella in Houston.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everybody had an umbrella.
Well, Jeannie, I want to ask you, going back to Plainview and with Virginia's help getting hired by OT, was it intimidating to work for him?
Oh, no. I hadn't thought of that. But I really desperately wanted to please him. All of us did. And no, I wasn't intimidated. I think that he didn't see our practices before we got there. But when he saw our first performance, I think he was really gung-ho with it all.
That's great.
Well,
He was so gung-ho with it.
Yeah.
He said, oh, next year you can teach flag. And I said, OT, I don't know anything about flag, not anything. Oh, well, it's just a long baton. No, it's not. I started taking lessons. I went to Wayland's band camp, and they had a really good flag corps at that time. And I learned everything, but they made so much fun of me because in twirling, you have a pretty free hand. At that time, everything was very military. And they just laughed at me because I had a pretty free hand and I was dainty. Flags were very military. They've changed a lot.
Well,
And how old were you? I'm sorry, how old were you when you started this training? If you don't mind me asking you.
When I started flag
Train,
training,
yeah, you went to Wayland and train. Were you in your late 20s, early 30s?
let me think just a minute. I had to be 32, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a few years
Interesting.
ago. I was
Yes,
32.
ma'am.
And
Yes,
I took flag lessons every summer for a long time. And I went to Tech and I went to WT, and they allowed me to go because was with the Plainview band, and I would stand in the back of classes, and I always paid to take private lessons at both schools.
Okay.
And
Well,
I took notes. I take shorthand, so I was able to read notes back.
cool.
I
Well,
learned a lot.
Well, I was gonna say, Suzanne, were you asking or gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to say that probably the reason they made fun of her at flag camp is because she was wearing 3-inch heels.
Forgot about that. I don't know why.
I mean,
thought,
even
I
at
thought I
twirling
had the world's,
practice.
I thought
Yeah,
I had the world's shortest legs, and I just could not be seen in shorts without heels.
yeah.
She's not lying. I wore gigantic heels.
Mhm.
No wonder I didn't break my leg running across the football field.
It's a miracle.
wow. I'm impressed. Wow. Well, I think it's just a testament to your dedication to your craft and to the sense of pride that you had as a teacher and instructor, that you would take the time to learn, this new genre and give it your best shot, because, the flag corps was amazing, amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. After I had a few years lessons. But flag was brand new then, and I believe 1980 or 1971 must have been the first year for flag for most bands. And so it was our first year, Plainview's first year.
In 71 or 79?
79.
79. So it was 79, 80.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that was when OT said, next year you can teach flags. And, but I taught them the very first and famous to me and dream come true line that Susie and Jeannie too were both on. And it was just a dream come true. We all wanted to please OT.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
it
think
was a
we
good
did,
line.
don't y'all girls?
It was a good line. It was.
It was wonderful. It was the best one I ever had.
Especially Suzanne's senior year, because we were sophomores.
Mhm.
And I always tell people, because when we were freshmen, we were allowed to march allowed to march. But then our sophomore year, they didn't allow the freshmen. So it was, everybody was a year experience, and 2 years of 82, and then Suzanne 3 years, but we were 2 years experience, and then so we had a really good marching group, and that's
Yes.
why I believe that's why we went to state because of that.
Yes.
Yes.
I forgot what I was going to say.
That's
I
okay.
do this, girls.
That's okay.
I knew I'd do everything I taught y'all not to do today.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot, Miss Pennell. How was it? Because I don't know much about Chief Davison because he was way before my time. But how was it the teaching styles between Chief and OTs?
Oh, there weren't that much difference because Chief was getting up in years, and OT actually did Chief's marching band at that time because Chief had a hard time getting around and climbing up high where he could see us. But he loved his twirlers, And he called us ding busted, confounded, dad dreaded twirlers. And then he would just giggle. His whole face would sparkle. He loved it. He loved all of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When did he start? Do you know when he started?
Keith?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure. I know that there's one band at least before Chief. I wish I could remember. He went to a music school that I can't remember the name of, but it was very, very high end music school. He knew his music. And that was really the reason that OT came to Plainview, because he wanted to learn from Chief. And incidentally, Pat Ryan, OT's wife, was a twirler in Chief's band. And
Oh, wow.
she said, Chief said, you know, if she was just to hold her horn, not play. So she laughs about that because he didn't want her to play. I'm sure she wasn't as bad as she tells it, but she was actually a twirler too.
Cool. Does anyone know
That's OT's wife.
if the streak of the number one, did this start with Chief?
The streak of ones, I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
so. I think
Okay.
so. When I graduated, I think we had 21. And I remember, and you girls do too, when it was number 50 sweepstakes. It was on the front page of the paper, and we were so excited. And we're all screaming and hollering in the picture in the paper. But and they took 30 minutes to announce it. They said, Plainview High School rating 1. So that was our 50th sweepstakes.
What year was that? I guess we were there.
Oh, Jeannie or Susie, were y'all in that band?
I was thinking it might have been, it was either 80 or 81, I think. I can't remember it, but I was there. I just can't remember which one it was. The thing I remember most about that year is, you know, the twirlers were right on the sideline and OT standing at practice up on that darn, 90 feet podium watching everybody. And we were just learning a new routine, and the twirlers were just a mess. And he gets on that darn megaphone and he goes, Rogers, what the heck's going on down there with the twirlers? Get them under control. We're trying to win a sweepstakes. That was some pressure.
I remember one time we were in 2 separate lines and we were doing a cartwheel to get in one straight line. And OT said, Jeannie, cut that. And I looked up at him and I said, OT. I loved it, of course. I said, OT, you just burst my balloon. And he looks down, from that high podium. And he said, I'm sorry I burst your balloon, but take that out. So it was out.
Well, Miss Pennell, do you recall going back to my sophomore year, Jeannie's senior year, when half the band stepped over the flags or rifle?
Yes, my most memorable moment. And Jeannie, you were in that band?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we were.
So, Susie, you'd already graduated.
No, I was in that band. I was in there.
It was the most memorable thing about that was the long ripple that we did.
Yeah.
And it started on the end, and it was I think it was a flag, then a twirler, a flag, then a rifle, then a flag, then a twirler, all the way down. And it was very, very long line. And the twirler would do a high toss, and the flag would shoot her flag under to the next flag. And then the rifle would do a high toss, and that flag would toss to the next one. And it went all the way down the line like that. And when we finished that contest, we had no drops whatsoever, none. And we never knew that because you know how windy it is. we never knew what was going to happen. And then immediately we went down in counts, of course. OT wouldn't have it, it had to be perfect. So all of the people that just did the ripple got down to counts with a certain formation and exactly alike, laid flat on our backs, and the band marches up inch by inch, totally in line exactly, and stepped over all of us laying down. And then went on about the show, and the flags popped up on a count after behind the band then. But that's my most memorable moment in band. And the audience just had a fit, because before that, Plainview High School was so military, very, very military, very good, very perfect, and very military. But that was very different for Plainview High School.
Wow. Well, do you remember when OT came up to you, say, by the way, I want to add this, the band is going to step over the twirlers. What were your thoughts, if you can remember, when he first mentioned this to
Knowing
you?
me, I was thinking we've got to get down to counts. We've got to be exactly alike. And we had to have our legs alike, our hands alike, our batons all the same. Knowing me, that's probably what I started working on. So,
And I can tell you, we were scared to death. Yeah, we were scared. We were scared to death because we thought we're going to do what?
Stepped on.
Yeah. And I'm looking at my yearbook, and I think it was 1980 because Ray Hughes and Wes Nairn, I think, were the drum majors that year.
Yeah, it was 80, 81. Yes, that's when we went to state.
Yeah, it was, because
that was
I taught the flags.
So, Suzanne, do you remember who stepped over you?
It was the trombones. And, you know, I had a lot of friends that were those trombone players and all that. And I just used to threaten them because they would, you know, just mess with me, because it was like down to a half a count that we had to get down. And I just remember Kent played trombone.
Jones? Kent Jones?
No, I think it was Kent. Anyway, I'll think of it just a minute. And anyway, they were just always messing with me. And of course, Carl was a trombone player, but he was on down the line. And so they just mostly gave me a hard time to give him a hard time that they were going to step on me. But there were a couple of very close calls in practices. I mean, like, you could just feel their foot going across the side of your face. You're just like,
well, let's just hope you had tall guys with long legs.
yes.
Jeannie, J2, what about you? Do you recall?
Remember who stepped over me, but one memory I do have it. Suzanne, I don't know if you'll remember this, but you know, Suzanne, you used to wear hot curlers.
Every year, every morning. Yeah.
If you had long enough hair. And I remember you have one roller in the front, and somebody accidentally did do something, and you had little dents in your forehead.
They kicked it. Yeah, they kicked it, and it was like it was almost bleeding. I was like, yeah, but I still kept wearing them.
That's the memories I have, and that, and just praying every time we did the toss that we would catch it, you know. But I just remember that when you were talking about worrying about somebody stepping on you.
Yes, yes. I'm looking at my yearbook trying to remember who it was. One of them was Evan Kramer. He played the saxophone, and he stepped over me for sure. And then I can't remember who else, but it was Kenneth Salee. It was Kenneth Salee was one of them too. And you know, they were a mess. So yeah.
Well, J2, you mentioned on your show over a year ago. Can you believe that? It's been over about a year since we had you and Fanchon on, about the accidental fire, Miss Pennell. Do you remember an accidental fire during practice?
You know, I don't remember that, but if you dropped one, the grass caught a fire immediately. And we all had to wear our hair up to twirl fire, because it really is real fire. And I know Jeannie and I were talking about that the other day, and I think she burned her hair and went running into the house. We were in the front yard. So it was scary.
And
You
it's,
don't want any of your twirlers to burn up.
yeah, hair burns so quickly. It's just a little flash thing, but the kerosene is what hurts. If you get that in your eye, it really hurts.
And
So
it sometimes
Especially if it's on
does.
fire.
You have to shake your baton after you soak it, and sometimes it will fly off and hit you, and which it did Jeannie.
Well, after we finished twirling fire, all of the hair on our arms were always just singed, and you could just smell that burnt hair, and you could just think, oh gosh. And then sometimes even if you could just feel the fire. It's like,
What
I
about
think
your
you could hear
eyebrows?
those,
oh yeah, that too.
feel
Like,
those leaks and stuff. They always did fire at the bonfire pep rally.
And we did it to the Doors song, wasn't it? Baby Come Light My Fire. I don't know the actual title
Oh,
of the song.
probably. Yeah,
yes,
probably.
yes.
I don't remember.
Well, and we had black uniforms that we wore, and those uniforms were horrible. And they were all real tight because every year we passed the uniforms down, and there was a lady who was the seamstress, and she would let them out and take them in. And the black uniforms were just terrible, and they were tight on everybody except Jeanne Marie, of course, and because she was so tiny. But I just remember at the bonfire, Vina one year, her zipper comes undone and she's swirling fire and she's looking at me to try to help zip her zipper back up. And I'm have fire and the big bonfire's behind us blowing everywhere. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you hold my baton. I'm going to zip her up in the middle. It was,
So she did two fire, I guess.
it was not fun. But anyway, yeah.
Now, I got to ask, and this is a legit question. Did we have to pull a permit from the city, and did the fire department have to inspect the uniforms?
I don't think they did that, but I think they had to have a permit from the city for the bonfire. But I'm not certain of that, but I'm pretty sure they did.
Okay.
Well,
And they probably were out there. The fire department may have been out there. Do you girls remember?
I remember the fire department was out there because they parked out by where the ambulance parked out on the side of the fence. And we had to let the stadium know that we were going to do it because they had to turn the lights off.
Right.
So the stadium went black, and then we lit the batons and we twirled. So the fire department was out there during that time.
Right. And nowadays, to turn the lights off, you have to let them warm back up. So we can't do fire.
Yeah.
Well, when you did the fire, if it was an exceptionally windy evening, did you just have to cut that out of the program?
Luckily, we didn't ever have that to happen. But you wouldn't twirl fire in wind.
Right.
Especially like we had the other day.
Oh gosh.
Oh, wow.
No, we never really had an issue with practicing it or with the fire, with the wind. The wind just wasn't as bad back then as it is really now. We didn't ever really have an issue with it.
Something we had to remember, and if any twirlers that might twirl fire might be listening, be very cautious to get the can of kerosene or gasoline out of the way before you light the batons. I know that sounds crazy, but you get so excited when you're twirling fire. Be sure you move those cans full of gasoline or kerosene out of the way. And if it's extremely cold, kerosene won't light.
We used gasoline. Yeah, we used gasoline most of the time.
Oh, Jesus. JT, do you recall who used to light batons for y'all?
I mean, well, somebody lit the end, and then I felt like we just went down the line.
Did y'all? Okay.
I lit the first one.
But it's both ends though, right?
I had kind of a little routine that you turned them over.
Yeah, you just pass it to the next person, then they light yours, and you light.
Right, but I'm saying with both ends batons on lit or just one?
Well, you start out with one, but you light one in, and when you turn it like that, it lights the other one. Turn it back, and it lights that end. But we did it in a routine, because everything was to a routine and to a count. So you just, the girls were close enough together that when you lit one end and you turned it, it would light the other end and turn it back to light. And then after that, you would rock it back and forth, but all the way down in a ripple to light all the batons.
Okay.
Did you ever twirl one, Miss Pennell, like a tech?
Not at Tech, but I did twirl fire.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
Lisa, I'm sorry.
My fire baton was probably one of the ones we used.
Okay. Lisa, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going back to kind of the beginning. When you went back to Plainview to teach or and work for OT, did you feel like you had just come full circle?
Oh, I was so excited that I was going to get to teach because there was a debate, with Virginia. She had to convince OT that I didn't just stop twirling when I got out of high school. I kept twirling, and that I had taught all these camps, and I was an MBTA judge, a National Baton Twirling Association judge, and still am. I haven't judged lately. I've kind of, at my age, dwindled away. But if anyone's interested, state competition will be in Lubbock this year. It's there every 3 years. And it's either June the 14th and 15th. It's on a Saturday and Sunday. And if you would love to see some little bitty 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds really blow your mind, go and see it. It's at the Civic Center in Lubbock.
Oh, I used to remember the state competition because when I was working with Art and Benny, I had to load up the van, drive
And
the van.
Bethany is in charge of this contest.
I would
Their
drive the
daughter.
van to wherever city it is, unload it, sell appliques, sell all that crap. I hated it.
It
I'm
was
like,
always out in the front. And now there's several companies, I think, that sell the material and all the trim and everything. Did you get to load trophies?
oh, I used to drill them, make them.
I knew you did. I had 10 contests here in Plainview, and 7 of them were at Wayland, and 3 of them were here at Plainview High School. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
I
may
have
have
an
loaded
attic
those
full of-
trophies.
Yeah, I have an attic full of trophies if you need them.
Don't worry, I am over the hill, very far over the hill. So I'm kind of out of it now. I am going Friday to meet my friend in Lubbock, and we're going to go to tech tryouts Saturday morning. So, and I occasionally, for Vicky, my friend that lives in Fort Worth, do a clinic or something with some of her girls.
Cool.
What did you enjoy? What was the most rewarding thing about teaching for you?
That first line that both of these girls were in was one of the most rewarding years. They all got along. They were absolutely gorgeous girls, and they were so good. And I don't know. There's so many things. You think that you're really excited, and you are, over your most advanced students when they go to nationals or whatever and do good, perform good at nationals. You are popping with pride because that reflects how good of a teacher you are. But when you have a little 3-year-old, you don't ever know what a 3-year-old's going to do. And at a competition, there may be like 8 judges out there in separate lanes at separate tables. And so, like, to do basic strut, the little 3-year-old, all of them, but I'm thinking of the 3-year-old that may start at one corner and she marches up to the judge, and then she marches across in front of the judge. She may keep marching all the way down in front of 8 judges. That's not what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to turn at the end of that table and march back to where she came from in her square. So sometimes when your 3-year-old marches a good square in front of her own table without going all over the gym, you're pretty happy.
Nice.
That's exciting.
I bet.
Nationals used to be when I was working there used to be at South Bend at
It
Notre
is
Dame.
still.
Still
It
there.
is
Okay.
still at South Bend, Indiana.
That's many years.
Yes.
Wow.
I went 10 times. I had some really good students, Chris Wall and Tandy Gant, and I had some great students that did get to go to nationals, and it was unbelievable, nerve-wracking, and you definitely got your exercise because it's in the sports, I guess, sports arena. There's two big gyms, and then there's down in the basement another gym, and then there's small rooms all around the big gym. The big gym actually has two gyms, so the main gym, maybe I should say, and there's smaller little rooms all the way around where they did dance twirl and flag. They did baton flags, is different from tall flags, but they do 2 and 3 baton and duets and trios and teams. And Benny's team at one time, I think, won at nationals, and part of my routine was in it, so I was thrilled.
Oh, cool.
It
Cool.
was called Alley Cat. That I learned at Clarksville, Tennessee.
Cool. J2 and Suzanne, did you guys compete? Suzanne, you go first.
Yes, yes. I spent a lot
Oh,
of time
dear.
practicing, a lot of time competing. Yes, I did. And I won state when it was here in Lubbock, and I didn't go on to regionals, and money was always an issue to be able to go on to those sorts of things. But yes, I spent the majority of my high school years in my front yard or Jeannie's front yard twirling. And then, of course, when she opened the barnyard, that was such a blessing to me because I had a key and I would just go down there late at night. And I know it wasn't the best part of town to be in it late at night, but I had a key. I just went in and locked myself in and just practiced till wee hours of the night because I had a tall ceiling. So, yeah.
What
One
year?
thing,
I'm sorry, go ahead,
Susie,
Jay.
one thing I know you must remember. You probably know what I'm about to say, but the competition where it snowed and snowed and snowed, and all the judges didn't get there. It was in Slayton. That's where Benny and Art had a lot of contests. But I chose to go down 400. I think y'all went down 27 or 87 and got there. The contest started at 8 o'clock. I got there at 3 o'clock, and they rushed me out there to judge because I wasn't supposed to judge. And I had a lot of students. You cannot judge your own students, Susie. And they were, I talked to Vicki the other day. She said, I remember that contest. I was trying so hard to go through and make sure nobody was your student in that group. The groups were gigantic, maybe 20 to 25 or 30 kids in a group. I looked up and I had already judged half the group, and guess who was there? It
Me.
was Susie.
Oh, so that's how you went to state because she was
Oh,
judging.
no.
Okay.
And I had to, it was awful. I had to talk her mother and her into not twirling.
Yeah.
And we thought she could win it.
Yeah.
She had a good chance to win. And to this day, we relive that. She couldn't twirl because she
Yeah.
couldn't twirl in front of me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
if she did,
one
all
event.
the other girls would have to retwirl.
Yeah. It was just that one event though. It was just one event. And so
Right.
I was okay. I got over it. We made
Are
it.
you over it?
I'm over it now. It took me a while.
I don't know if your mom is yet.
Let's not mention it to her.
Okay.
What year did you win state? What grade were you in?
I was probably junior, senior.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
That's
about-
when high school years was when I really twirled competitively.
What about you, Jeannie Marie?
No, I went to the contests that were local at Wayland and would compete in just individual events. Suzanne was a completely different level of advanced twirling. She was so good. I looked up to her so much. And just loved watching. She was so beautiful when she twirled. But just like Suzanne, I remember when Jeannie had the Barnyard Academy, and when I was working on my routine for Texas Tech, Jeannie was so kind to let me have a key, and I would go down there until the wee hours of the morning, lock myself in and practice and practice and practice for the Texas Tech auditions, because, you know, at Tech, they had 380 something girls, I think, or something, for 3 spots that were open, because it was only
Wow.
girls that graduated. And so the chances of being selected were, you know, it was a stiff competition. That was probably the most significant competition I ever attempted to compete in, you know. But I loved the competitions at Wayland. They were fun, or they terrified me, but they were fun.
The
But
tryout.
Jeannie,
Go ahead.
everybody looked up to you too. I
Oh,
mean, all of y'all were beautiful, but we all looked up to you because you still are gorgeous. Susie, you are too.
Well, you taught us to be poised at all times.
Yeah.
I told you I'd do everything I told y'all not to do today.
That's funny. I was gonna ask Jeannie Marie, when you tried out for Tech, what did it consist of? What was the tryouts?
To the best of my memory, I had to have a solo routine, and Jeannie helped me choreograph that. That was my first attempt to make up my own routine, and then she came in and helped me with some, you know, make it continuity. And then we had to twirl in synchronicity, you know, together. We had to be able to be like the other twirlers. And what was interesting for me, at least, is that Texas Tech, the style of the twirlers was very different from the Plainview High School twirler style. They were very, you probably could it better than I, but I would say more, not military, but just very uniform. And it was the routines were very similar one to the other, which was difficult once I made the line, because you basically took the exact same moves and you put them in different orders. In different order. And Jeannie taught routines. They were just very, you know, we had unique routines. They were very dancey. It was really not difficult for me to remember those. But after the second year, you know, your routines are together if they're the same moves, just reorganized. So, and that just was my experience. And then it's very different at Tech now, you know, and I believe, Jeannie, the Texas Tech line won nationals a few years ago, and under Bethany's leadership.
Bethany teaches them. And their
So-
routines are difficult.
Oh, yes, very difficult. They have more, you know, tosses and illusions and toss turns and things like that. When I twirled on the line, it was much more of just military. We didn't do a lot of tosses and things like that. It was just different, just a different style.
Going back to the tryout at Tech, did they like at the end, all right, here's our top 3, or was there like different levels? Like that they had to, you know, cut half of it, 50%, and then the next routine, you know what I mean?
Oh, yes. So when we went in, I remember going into a very large group. They taught us a routine, and then they brought us all in batches, and we twirled, and then they eliminated probably half in the first, and then another half, and another half. I really don't remember down to the very end. I was just so shocked that I was still there. I do remember that the day that when I did my solo, it was the one and only time that I did it with no drop. And I twirled to a song that I performed at All-State Band. It was actually a song from All-State, and I choreographed my routine to a song I was actually playing. So I knew the music inside and out. But I don't really know, Jeannie, you may have judged the Tech twirling competition at one point in time. I don't really know how they weighted it or anything else. I just remember that you had a solo competition, and then you went into the group, and they eliminated huge groups, and it got down to the small.
Well, I was going to ask you, did Miss Pennell, was she a judge? No, I'm kidding.
No, she would have gotten it if I had been for sure. She was gorgeous, and the girls had to be thin. For Dean Killian, they weighed in. I was Prof. Wiley's last year and Dean Killian's first year, but he expected the girls to be exactly a nice size, and he actually did weigh them in. So, Jeannie, they would take that large group and divide it into little groups, and then put the same girl in another group, and then maybe another group, and still do the same routine. And they looked at the girls together to see how they looked together.
So out of that whole giant group, there were only 3 spots.
That year, that year, yes.
How many were they on the line, or if that's the way you ask? Do they have like 8 twirlers or
10? I have to go
10.
back to the names. It was either 8 or 10. And then we had Bethany was a feature and Catherine Banks was a feature. And then there were the group of us. So maybe it was 8 on the line and then 2 features. I honestly would have to go back and think of the names of the girls I twirled with to remember how many were on our line, but that sounds about right.
You know what's cool? Just dawned on me that you were there twirling at Tech, and I assume Jane Udi was there at the same time being a cheerleader at Tech. Am I correct? I mean, Suzanne, would you remember?
Jane Udi was my age.
Okay.
And so, yes, she was at Tech cheerleading when Jeanne Marie was there.
That was cool.
She was one of my best friends and convinced me to try out for cheerleader at Tech, and I blew my knee out at tryouts.
Well, she broke her leg too, or an arm. Did she get hit by the horse?
She broke her arm, I think.
But didn't the horse?
Yeah, and it took her out. I can't remember if it was the horse or I think she fell from a stack. They had her up above and she fell from a stacked.
Oh, okay.
Stick. Yeah.
I think my story's better.
Well, it does sound good. It does sound good. We'll go with that. We'll give the horse a break on this one.
So, well, let me ask you this. Well, help me out, Lisa. Let's go with the next question.
I have a question. So going back to when y'all were still in high school, did y'all have any pregame rituals?
That's a good one.
Miss Pennell? Anybody? Yeah.
We always had a prayer, the flags and the twirlers. We always had a prayer. The main thing that we always prayed about was that we would be able to perform to the best of our ability. That was our prayer.
Oh, wow.
And to be able to stay focused on what we were doing.
Did you guys do like a middle thing, like put your hands in the middle?
I can't
Plainview?
remember. I think the flags did.
I put the flags in like that, you know?
Well, I think we just did our hands. I can't remember.
We just gathered around and just put our arms around each other and just made a little huddle and just said the prayer. But it was if one person did something on the twirling line, everybody did it. It was not a standalone deal. There was one year, and I won't mention her name, but there was one year, and we loved this girl to death, but it was freezing. I mean, it was so cold outside, and she forgot her cape. And we had these satin velvet capes that we could wear that all they really did was block the wind, but at least you had something over your little skimpy costume. And this one girl forgot her cape, and OT's like, no, if everybody doesn't have them, nobody wears them. And so we stood out there freezing to death. So the next game, you could be assured that everybody had their cape, but it was everybody did it together. There was no standalones. I mean, we were all in it.
You know, funny you said it, Suzanne. I remember the very cold games. I mean, we're sitting up on the bleachers and we're getting warm. All of a sudden, I see you twirlers go to OT. Let's do a song. I was like, why? I just got warm. And you're the one who got pelted with tomatoes, right, Jeannie Marie? So that was me throwing the tomatoes at you because you kept wanting to twirl in the cold.
For me at Monterey, it was dirty socks. They threw dirty socks at us at Monterey.
Why? Why
because
30?
just because they were Monterey and they didn't like us. And, we were always right there on the sideline, and those boys have their dirty, stinky socks or whatever, that and ice. They throw ice at us too. So,
Is
and
it
we just,
And
is it
Go ahead.
Monterey where you got tomatoed, Jeannie Marie?
It was, I don't know if you remember that, Jeannie. We wore our white uniforms.
Oh, no, I don't remember it.
And
I
I
was probably huddled getting warm.
felt they got Rochelle, me. I can't, it was that end. Suzanne, do you remember that?
I just remember, every time we went to Monterey, it was like, just be ready for anything because, they were just not very nice.
No, they weren't.
Is
Yeah.
it
They were
because
probably jealous.
They were
Yeah,
jealous. It was a
were you
rivalry.
guys? That wasn't, but it wasn't a football rivalry then. Was it
No.
a band rivalry? Rivalry?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, because their band was really good and they were large and we were large. And so it was, we had this running streak of first divisions. And so it was just jealousy. And the other thing is the people that were throwing them probably weren't even band members. It was just their stupid kids on the sideline that were, just being idiots out there. So,
Yeah, I don't think it really could have been the band members because it was during halftime and the band would have been
Out on the field, on
Yeah.
the side.
getting ready to come. Yeah.
well, they would have been behind us, probably. So I don't think it was anybody in the band. I think you're right about that.
The trainers or whoever's out there on the field at the time.
Yeah, I think it was, just fans being ugly.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Pennell, I have another question for you. What, as a teacher and a coach, what were the most essential skills or qualities for the twirlers and flag corps that you worked to develop?
Showmanship.
Okay.
You could do a bad job and have good showmanship and it was still okay.
Are you talking about like
But,
smiling all the time?
Yeah,
Or-
well,
Posture
yes,
and-
it could be like if you were military, it would be opposite of smiling. But for the majority of the time for twirlers, it would be smiling. Unless they were in competition doing a military strut, then they wouldn't smile and it would be snappy and sharp. But you had to be able to smile and think and focus at the same time. And I think showmanship would be one of the big ones.
Wow.
Everybody had a different amount of difficulty depending on when they started twirling and how long they took and how much they practiced. The perfect practice makes perfect performance.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
We talked about that. I said it wrong.
So here's the second part to that question. So that is an external thing that you instilled in your twirlers and flag. What were internal characteristics or, that you expected out of your people?
I expected hard work. I was very, very strict. I hope I wasn't so ugly any of them hate me, but I really was very strict. But I think they gained confidence and a presence about themselves. And you can see this in Jeannie and Susie right now. You can see it. They developed that and it stuck with them. You learn self-discipline and you do learn hard work. And you learn to get along with everybody. So when you go to work in a big office somewhere or anywhere where there's a lot of employees, you learn to get along with others. And those are things that I think that could go on and on and on for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
And teamwork.
I want to know, because I know we used to review Monday mornings the film from the previous from Friday night. Did OT require you to watch film with them maybe over the weekend? Or when did OT watch the film from Friday? I know we did it Monday morning, but did he do it prior to that? And were you involved in it as well?
I don't think that he ever, oh yes, I always watched it. I wouldn't have missed it. And I had to watch it several times because I was looking at flags and twirlers. And so I always reviewed it. And the girls, of course, could watch themselves, and they knew what they did wrong. And the flags, if they weren't together, it would be bad. Or if anybody got out of step, that's another number one probably would be, besides pleasing OT, would have been stay in step. Because twirlers kind of are known to maybe not be in step, but they were perfectly in step all of the time. They wanted to please OT. They got along perfectly. The mothers were never a problem. It was great. Just total dream come true.
Did you guys ever get together as a group and go eat dinner or celebrate birthdays as a group? I mean, do y'all do things outside of football games and practice?
We
Jeannie
probably
Marie?
did, but not during football season because we were practicing all the time.
Yeah, practice was it. Practice
Yeah.
was the celebration.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, and on Monday morning, when you guys were looking at film, we were learning the new routines for the week as
Right.
well. And so when we went out to the practice field, we wanted to make sure that we at least knew part of the routines before we got out to the practice field, because once you're out there, OT sees everything. And then that's when we're on the hot seat. So we would go into the hallway and practice in the hallway, and oftentimes meet after school to practice those routines as well. But there really, and truly, it sounds crazy, but there really wasn't a lot of time for extra getting together and whatever. We were very close. We were very close friends, and we love to celebrate each other just for being friends and being close, but we didn't really go out and do things
Okay.
together.
So you guys did a new routine every week? I didn't remember that.
If
Or
there's
know
a new
that.
song, every new song had a routine.
Oh wow.
Yeah, incredible.
At the beginning, they would add us a different song every game till they got the whole competition routine on the field.
Well, Jeannie Marie, what was the toughest song to twirl to? Can you remember?
I don't really remember there being a song in particular that was difficult to twirl to, but I'm just wondering if maybe it might not be something that would be top of mind for people in the band to realize that we needed to understand where the band was going to be on the field and how what we were doing related to what the band was doing on the field, because the worst thing we could do is be in the way. And if you wanted OT to not be happy with you, be in the way of somebody that was trying to do a maneuver on the field and as part of the band. And so that was part of, I believe, and Jeannie could speak to this, about what she had to choreograph is how does the auxiliary complement and elevate what the band is trying to do, so that we become a whole unit and it all looks cohesive on the field, and that we're getting out of the way when the band is doing all of its different positions and designs.
What about you, Suzanne?
Well, and that is true. I mean, sometimes we wouldn't even realize it until we were out there in the midst of it. And we would come back that afternoon and tell Jeannie, look, we got to shift over 5 yards or something, because, the trombones are coming down here going to slap us with their slides or whatever. And, OT would change one little thing that would look good for the band, and that changed our whole one little thing. And so it was really important that we stayed on top of that.
Well, Miss Pennell, speaking of the routine, was that you doing the choreographing, just you, or did OT have his?
No. He did not want to be involved.
Okay, well, good.
No, he didn't have time to be bothered with that twirling thing, because he had the band to look out for, make sure the whole band was in step, and make sure that they were where they were supposed to be, and they didn't run into each other and everything. We were given I don't know what you would call it.
Carte blanche.
We were given sheets of paper for each song and where the band should be. So it showed all the members. I don't remember if they were numbers, so they'd know which person they were. But so we could look at that and know where the band was going to be. But it did get changed sometimes because something didn't look as good on the field as it did on the paper.
Well, let me
But-
ask you this. Okay, I want more, if you can give me more in depth. How did you come up with the routines? Like today, people can Google. They can Google and get and steal routines from all over the world. But
Well,
back
believe me, I
then,
stole a lot.
but was that a lot from memory from other twirler, or I mean,
Oh,
how did you come up with the routine?
Well, you put things together that you've learned in the past. You might have one thing out of one routine, or not necessarily a routine, but just something that you learned, and you put it together to go with the music. Were either of you girls in the one where we twirled capes?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what was the
Macarena,
music?
the Macarena.
Macarena.
That was a Spanish song, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
the
we
matador. It's
did
like a
cape
matador.
routines.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite ones. That was fun to put together.
I could still.
Do you happen to remember it,
Oh,
Michael?
and I just know that
Kinda.
whenever we would get the music and Jeannie would start putting the routines together, that the routine kind of sets the tone for the music sets the tone for the routine, whether, you know, whatever that was, the Matador, maybe it wasn't Macarena, it was the Matador song, whatever it was, that, you know, that was clearly, she said, I'm going to try something new. And we're all like, oh, good grief. And so
It was new.
yeah, what's new? And so, you know, if it's a song that's more upbeat, then you're definitely going to twirl faster. If it's a song that's, you know, lower toned and slow, you're definitely going to do, you know, things that are slower and aerials or whatever. So I think it just comes with experience that Jeannie knew, and you know, that was good. I mean, every now and then she would say, what do you think about this? And I'd be like, no, I don't really think we want to do that.
So
Rhythm to really, because you've got to feel the music. So to be able to really perform well and be comfortable in it, you have to have a sense of rhythm, both as a teacher and as a performer, right?
Yes.
Rhythm is very, very important.
So Miss Pennell, your first year after you finished the first year, how did OT approach you and say, yes, you're coming back for your second? Do you
When
remember?
he told me I would teach flags and twirlers the next year.
That was your ultimate. He goes, you have to, in order to come back, you have to do
listen,
flags.
Susie's mother had to convince him to let me teach twirling and that I knew what I was doing in twirling. I tried to convince him I did not know one thing about flag. I mean, it was right the opposite of what Susie's mother was doing, because I was saying, no, OT, I don't know anything about flag. It's just a long baton.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not.
Well, we had
anyway.
the flags on here a few months ago, and they say today's flags, the pole is shortened and lighter, I think.
Much easier, much
So
easier.
you would love to have those.
Oh,
back
yes, because then flags poles were like 6 foot tall. You'd hit the ground. It was awful.
I assume the flag is smaller as well.
No, as a matter of fact, they may be bigger. Flags
wow.
are all kinds of sizes, really.
So it's just the pole that's smaller.
Yes.
Okay, well, and I would imagine that makes it much easier to handle and maneuver the flag.
It is. They probably changed flags several times during the course of the band's routine. So they may go from a shorter flag to a taller flag. But they change flags lots of times. Some bands.
Well, I do remember the end of that first year, and I would always be at Jeannie's house for my private lessons, and I would usually get there around her dinner time, and so she'd be like, come in and sit down, let me finish eating my bell pepper or whatever. And so we would have a conversation. We would have a conversation, and I just remember her saying, OT told me that I'm going to do the flags. It wasn't he asked me. OT told me I'm going to do the flags. And Susie, I just don't know if I can do that. I don't know what I'm doing. I said, Jeannie, you can do this. You will be able to figure this out. You can do this. And the one thing I said to her, she may not remember this, but I said to her, Jeannie, you cannot practice the flags in your den.
And you don't know how true that is. There's a few holes in the wall and the ceilings, and I did shorten one to make up routines too, and I did a lot outside. Like at night, midnight, I'd be out there trying to put flag routines and twirling routines to music. My neighbors love me.
She was nervous. She was nervous about it. Yeah.
Did you ever have an assistant to help you, Miss Pennell?
No.
Or you're just you all by yourself?
Yeah, it was my fault. Everything that happened.
So you couldn't blame it on anyone. And when did you get the music? Because I mean, Suzanne mentioned Mondays they have the new routine. When did you get the new song?
I kind of stood around begging all the time, and I had a cassette player, and I recorded the music when the band was playing it sometimes, you know. So I would get it as quickly as I could because I had to start working on it.
So you basically spent the weekend working on the routine that you were going to teach these girls on Monday.
Right.
It was a 7-day-a-week job for you.
Exactly.
Oh,
no.
Oh no, it was a 24-hour-a-day because I'd lay awake at night trying to figure out what it was.
I hope you got paid more than 50 cents an hour when you were doing this.
I think it was. Yeah,
well,
Mr. paid me.
And Mr. Burks would bring the twirlers a cassette also that he had the ability to hear the music when they purchased it, of course. So he it would be, you know, a professional recording that he would just bring us the CD, and then we had a little cassette player. I mean, not a CD, a cassette, and we had a little cassette player out in the hall that we just ran that thing ragged. Practice.
I wonder if the little ones know what cassettes are.
Right?
Probably not.
I said something about a record one time, and one of my little ones said, "What's that?"
Yeah. You know, I gotta ask is John Denver supposedly was in a tech band. You know, the musician John Denver.
Oh, really?
There was a rumor that he was in a tech band 1 or 2 years. So you just answered my question. I guess he wasn't there when you were there.
No, but I didn't always know who everybody was either.
Okay.
You need to get on
I'll tell you who was there.
Who?
This tells you how old I am because we're I guess the same age. Jean Arrington was a big-time basketball player. He was great. He was there when I was there.
I don't remember him. Sorry.
Have you heard of Jody Arrington?
The politician?
No.
The politician?
Yeah.
That's his dad.
Oh, okay.
Jean is his dad.
I'm trying to find out when John Denver was a tech, but go ahead, Lisa. Would you have another question?
Yeah, and this is a question for Jeannie 1. So, I mean, you've been in the business for a long, long time. How has twirling and flag changed and evolved over time? Like
very much.
Yeah.
Because when we started, it really was military, and Plainview High School marched very military. And now, I wish I would have called Barry Hurt to find out what you call it, but they do like a glide step, and we marched yard line to yard line in the military way. But now they do, I think it's called a glide step, and you may or may not touch the yard line. And they seem to wander all over the field. The music is different. It may be real moody and soft, and the show will all be coordinated to the music. Maybe a movie, the music in a movie.
Yeah, the movie score. So is twirling does it have more dance features now than it did?
Definitely. But in competition twirling, which I also did big, and it's totally a different ball game. But the they have changed too. What did you ask me? Remember how old I am?
No, I was asking over the course of your career as a teacher, how has the I'm going to call it a sport because it really is.
It is a sport.
Yeah, how
I'm
has
so
the
glad
sport
you did
changed?
that. It's exactly a sport.
It is. It
It
is.
looks like a lot of the Olympic skaters, even their costumes do. This
Yes.
is where you get into the competition twirling.
Yeah. So the question was, how have you seen it evolve and change over the course of your career and lifetime? But you answered it.
Well, for one thing, my twirlers were way better than I ever was. It has gotten more and more advanced, and they were much more than I ever could have been. It changed, it got more advanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, do y'all call what do you call are they tricks or are they like
Yes, you call them tricks.
okay.
And like rolls will, I tell my kids, rolls don't have airspace. They roll over your body without the use of your hands. And there's tosses you catch blind behind your head, or you catch behind your back. You may catch under your leg. There's tosses and releases. You may toss from under one leg and catch from under the other leg. And your releases are not all right in the front of the tummy. They may be behind the back. You may release from behind the back, behind the head, under your leg. And then all the catches may be blind catches behind the head or under the leg or in the back. Behind two legs, your releases may be the same way.
Well, in an illusion, do you flip it, or do you use your whole arm to toss it up and then do your leg?
You should use your thumb in tosses.
Okay.
Because your thumb tells you where you're going to toss it. You have to place your tosses. You can't toss and turn at the same time or it'll go over to the side. You have to release your toss before you turn, and you spin on one foot. You spin to the right and to the left. The more difficult the routine gets, the more different the releases are. You may toss it, slide down on the baton. I haven't seen that. Now that's one toss that they did many years ago. And they took out gymnastics out of baton twirling several years ago, many years ago. But at one time you could release the baton and do a cartwheel or a back handspring, or a back would be good. As a matter of fact, Chrissa did that and caught backhanded. You also can catch backhanded or in an unusual place. You can catch backhanded under the leg. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
That's interesting. Suzanne, can you still do an illusion?
Well, in my dreams.
Hey, Susie, you ought to see mine.
Well,
Can I start with saying I've had a knee replacement, and I think part of it's probably due to twirling. And,
no.
But Jeannie's right that things have evolved, and when I was doing competition twirling, we would see something that someone else had done, especially if we were at state or especially at state. And Jeannie would say, did you see this trick? And I don't know how it's done, but we're going to figure it out. And so we would work together until we could figure out the best way to release it and the best way to catch it and when to turn and, when to do things. Sometimes it was just by an accident that we figured things out, but it's very much watching what other people are doing and taking that and making it your own. And
stealing stuff.
Everyone's individual. Yeah, everyone's individual.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine the tricks are much more complex today.
Are you asking?
Yeah, it's a question and a speculation. I'm assuming that the tricks today are much more complex.
I feel like they are.
When the podcast is over, I'm going to get online and look at
the more advanced the student gets, the more advanced the teacher gets too. But I I feel like they are more complex. Let me just say, since I was a twirler, or since I twirled or taught, they're unbelievable. And there have been some Miss Texas twirlers that were Miss Texas. And in nationals, you'll see twirlers sometimes too. It's an art and it is a sport.
Believe it. I believe it. You were tech at 59 to 62, correct? If you graduated in 58?
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, I don't know if John Denver was in band, but
He
he was
was?
he was a tech at 61, 62.
Really?
Yeah. Again, I don't know if I didn't get to read the article, but he was there
Well,
when you were
I
there.
left in 60
Oh, okay.
to go to Houston.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, what were some of the funny moments? Funny, like you caught not just these two or just a twirler. I mean, just anything that was just made you laugh. You know, you were mad, but at the same time, you're laughing.
Oh, these girls didn't make me mad. One thing that comes to mind, and I won't name her name, however, I think she'd laugh with us, but it was in front of my house on the sidewalk. We were doing a ripple, and I mean, everybody was performing as if they were in front of the big audience, and they were just doing this in a ripple, and it went all the way down the line to counts, perfect. And the very last girl, and if she's listening, she knows, and I know who you are. And I kept watching her. She did it perfectly. And then she kept leaning and leaning and leaning. I thought, is she going to fall over? And she did. She fell over. And it was so funny. We all thought it was funny. She did too.
Why did she fall over? If I may ask.
She was arching her back so far.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
her head, you know, she was way back. and she'd put all of her energy into it. And it was real slow. She just kept leaning and leaning. And
Was it Suzanne and her curlers?
no,
it wasn't.
there was a twirler on the front page of the Herald one time
Oh,
that
wow.
had her hair up in curlers. A lot of the band kids wore curlers to band because it was dark some of the time when we got there to march. So, you know, it'd start getting light pretty quick.
And my hair was long and straight. And so I curled it every morning. And by the time you get out there, I mean, twirling it's exhausting and you're sweating and you're putting a lot of work into it. And, you know, if you got any kind of wind, you got any kind of moisture, then you're going to look like that the rest of the day. So I just wore my hot rollers and I didn't really care who liked it or who didn't, or they all made fun of me and it didn't matter. There was a group of us that wore them and yeah, just that's what we did.
I wonder who was the very first girl ever to decide I'm going to show up today at band practice with my hot curlers on.
I don't know. I wasn't the first or probably the last either.
Well,
I'm trying to remember which one it was that was in the paper. They took a picture of her in the newspaper. I can't remember.
What was it, a game or no? It couldn't have been a game. Was it a parade or was it practice?
Because I remember that. I remember that being in the paper, but I cannot remember who it was.
I can't either.
So what's a funny moment, Suzanne, that you saw? And it doesn't have to be twirlers. It could be flags, rifle, us band members. Do you recall any funny moment?
You know, we did have a good time. We laughed a lot and we had a good time. And I think several of us, we had one particular routine that I did not care for. And we all were sitting very close to one another, and especially in Jeannie's front yard because her sidewalk was all crunky and broken.
Still is.
Trying to keep from breaking an ankle. And we were very close and we would pull the baton over and the other person's hand would be really close to it. And I'm pretty sure my finger was broken by some people and Jeanne Marie's probably was too. But, you know, at the time we were like, you know, it was kind of humorous at the time that we could just laugh it off and not really be mad at one another, but it was just those kinds of things that we did. But I will tell you a funny story about Jeannie. When her daughter came to one of her first twirling contests, Jeannie was a nervous wreck at this contest because her daughter had not really twirled in competition yet. And we're in the dressing room and we're getting, I don't know, Jeannie, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we're getting dressed and we're getting makeup on. And, you know, she was probably first grade or second grade. She was very young. And so she's putting this makeup on Christy, and Jeannie's got this blue eyeshadow. And of course, that was the time when blue eyeshadow was, you know, popular. And of course, I had on blue eyeshadow, and she takes that blue eyeshadow and just rubs it all over Christy's cheeks. And she's like, oh my gosh, Susie, I'm so nervous. I can't even think what I'm going to do. So we're like scrubbing blue eyeshadow off her cheek. Do you remember that?
I don't remember it.
It was the contest. I believe it was in Ropesville, and it had snowed really hard the night before.
I remember that.
And everybody thought that they weren't even going to be able to get to the contest. So at the last minute of the contest, they decide they're going to name this the Miss Snowbird contest. And so I won the Miss Snowbird contest, and I had this sash that I wore that said Miss Snowbird. I was so embarrassed. I was in the paper wearing this big sash of Miss Snowbird. So anyway, but I did have a nice big trophy for it. And Christy had blue eyeshadow on her cheeks.
Oh, me.
Jeannie
I don't
Marie?
remember it, but I'm not surprised.
No, Jeannie's daughter did. Christy,
Right.
she had blue eyeshadow on her cheeks.
What about you, Jeannie Marie?
My funny story has to do with Wes Nairn, and it must have been my freshman year because he was a senior, I think, when I was a freshman. But after the game, you know, I believe it was our red and white uniform, but after the game, he came over to my house, and for some reason, my zipper was stuck. And I could not get out of my uniform. Do you remember this, Suzanne? I could not get out of my uniform, and I had to go to the restroom so bad. And Mom came out into the living. It was like we were in the den, and Wes was standing there, and my mother was trying to get it, you know, down. And they tried soap, and they did everything they could. And I was like, I've got to go to the restroom. And my daddy ran to the toolbox. He got some pliers out and he goes, I can't believe I'm asking you to do this, Wes, but would you please unzip my daughter's uniform? my uniform unzipped so that I can go to the restroom and change my clothes. We must have had some kind of little band dance or something, but we laughed about that. I'm asking a boy to unzip my daughter's trolley.
Goodness, he was there. Thank goodness he was there and put some muscle into it. Oh my gosh.
He remembers that, but it's one of the memories that I just laugh about.
That's funny. Miss Pennell, were you able to go to the spring trips like to Corpus or San Antonio?
Yes.
Okay.
With the Plainview band,
Yes, ma'am.
I went on all of them
Nice.
till I was with Very Hurt. My husband had Alzheimer's, and I retired in 2005. Barry Hurt had one more semester, and but my husband I had to be home with him. But I used to go on all the band trips. Yes.
Now, I understand the sponsors, like the parents have to like roam the halls, like late at night, make sure the student did OT ask you to do the same, to keep on the twirlers and the flags and make sure they're not doing any shenanigans?
I don't think he ever asked me to. I did, but the twirlers didn't do shenanigans. If they did, they didn't let me know.
All right, Jeannie Marie, tell us about that one time you and Fanchon snuck in a case of beer.
Oh, that did not happen.
Now, I'm sure that the flag corps was probably ornery, but it wasn't the twirlers.
There you go.
And I
Well,
don't think the flag corps was very ornery either.
I don't think they were. Jeannie taught us I mean, she wanted us to have high morals and she had high expectations for us. And that was clear that we were to be a role model and that other people were looking up to us. And so
They
we
did.
pretty much towed the line.
Well, when the flag corps was on, they mentioned that some of the people in the parade were a little handsy to the point that Donna Freeze said that she took her flagpole and popped the guy in the head.
See, I
And-
don't remember anything like that, but they wouldn't do it for me to see, I'm sure.
But I mean, did you guys have any stories like that, Jeannie Marie or Suzanne?
Well-
But you guys are always in front anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Was that parade spectators? You're not talking about.
Yeah, the spectators. Yes, the spectators. Some of the men would walk next to the girls and touch them. And I think Donna was it Donna Freeze?
It was Donna who said she hit somebody.
They're on the head because guess he
He-
touched her inappropriately. So
inappropriately, and then one of the parents, I think, ended up marching the rest of the way next to her.
no, I thought it was J.W. King or something like that.
Was it?
J.W. King or Coach.
He
One of
was a-
them.
J.W. King was a wonderful band director
Mhm.
and was band director for either the freshman or sophomore band when I was teaching. I taught his twirlers
Right.
in Plainview. He was a wonderful health center band director that made lots of ones.
Wow. Now, Jerry Killian, who's Dean's son, when he showed up to play, how'd you did
Yes.
did I
I
assume
knew
you remember
him when he
as
was a
kid?
little boy.
Yes.
Because we did, the tech twirlers would go to Dean Killian's house and maybe cook hamburgers or something. And his children were small. So I knew him when he was little.
Yeah. Well,
and
time
in
out.
Plainview High School.
Time out. You said Dean Killian cooked burgers, but you guys have to weigh in. So he fed you burgers, not like just salads.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I do remember going to his house when his children were little. He probably would watch every bite we took. I don't remember. I don't think any of us had a weight problem, though.
I want to go back to a question that Michael asked earlier about y'all socializing. When I was a cheerleader from freshman all the way through varsity, at Christmas time, we had a Christmas party with all the cheerleaders at the Buchanan's house. Did y'all ever have like a Christmas party for the twirlers and the flag and the rifle? Did y'all ever have a big get together?
We really didn't have much socializing of that nature. We really didn't, other than, I think we spent so much time with each other during marching contests that we were giving each other a break. So I don't know. And honestly, my junior and senior year, when I wasn't doing twirling for the band, I was practicing all the time for contest twirling. And so I really did not have much of a social life. I would go on dates on Friday night or Saturday night, but really I did not really have much of a social life.
I think we thought twirling was a social
I think
life.
we did too. I think that's what we found. That's where we found our joy. I think that's just what we did.
Well, Miss Pennell, what instrument did you play?
I started out on a trumpet and changed to a cornet.
Okay.
And now I think it's the other way around. I think they have more trumpets than they do cornets.
Were you good?
I was fair. My technique for fast runs was not good, but they liked my tone quality. They felt like I had a good sound. And but I wasn't the worst in the world. I wasn't the best either, for sure, by a long shot. But I usually sat first chair second or first chair third. I was not good on high notes. I at the first of the year before our chair test and everything, they usually put me in maybe the top first cornets. I'd be
Nice.
like 5 in them.
That's cool. Well, can you share any funny stories about OT or Coach Jerry or anyone, Mr. Burks?
Um,
Well, I
it
know
was,
OT loved giving licks, and he what I used all this band people we've talked, OT gave licks a lot, and he actually told Mr. Killian, Jerry, he says you're going to eventually have to give licks, and he gave his first licks was 2 cheerleaders who were in band, and I think they're wearing their uniforms.
well,
So
we
what's
had paddle committees when we
oh
were, yeah, we had paddle committees in OT's junior high band and Chief's high school band. And so if you were late or if you were cutting up, or drummers were always doing stuff, drummers were always in trouble. And it was one Valentine's Day, and we were in junior high school, and my little friend Barbara Fawcett and I sneaked a Valentine up on OT's podium, and it said, "How would you like to go steady?" And you opened it up, and it said, "Try X-Lax."
oh wow.
And OT turned red in the face. You know, he turned red in the face when he got mad. And he looked at all of us. We never told who did it.
Oh wow.
That's the meanest thing I ever did.
So funny.
Oh wow. Okay. That's a good one.
Hey,
Yeah, not many people I don't think made him laugh.
He loved his kids, and he really was an excellent band director.
Yes.
And Chief was so musically talented and educated, and OT really learned a lot from him. And in a marching contest, the band score, unless it has changed, was 50% music, and the other things were lesser than 50%. So the music had to sound really good. So we were all nervous wrecks at contest.
Oh,
Played the best we could.
yes. And this is any of y'all three can answer this. I'll start with Suzanne. Was there ever a time when the field was horrible and it was really hard for you? I mean, like if it was muddy or snowy, and can you share a story about that? What field?
Well, we wore boots, those boots that came high up on our calves. And so they had about 1.5 inch heel on them, and they were very slick on the bottom. And if there was any kind of moisture, that grass was wet. So it's not uncommon at all for you to take off marching across that field and you figure out real fast that it's slick. But that's something that we used to talk about too, is it's wet. You can see, look at the yard line markers are blowing across the field, or look at how muddy it is. Look how muddy the football players are. That's your first clue, is you look at that sort of thing, and that gives you an indication of what the field's going to be like. Because if you're going to throw the baton up and do a turn, or you're going to do any kind of footwork, your foot's going to slide everywhere. So there were several games. I remember one particular game in Hereford, and Hereford was always so stinky and so smelly anyway. I just hated going to Hereford, but it was a real muddy game. And it was almost like as soon as we stepped on the field, our heels just sunk into the grass. And I mean, my first thought is, how are we going to walk across this field and stay in step? But we did, but it was a trick.
Now,
Did you ever fall?
not while I was on the line. I don't think anybody ever fell. I think there was one time that, I don't know if it was Avina or Rochelle. It seems like it seems like one of them might have slipped at some point, but I don't think they actually fell, that I can remember.
You were there when on the 79-80 football, I guess you were a sophomore. Kevin Box, actually it started with that podcast with the 79 football players. And one of them mentioned that at the Amarillo High, I think by district game, they wet the field on purpose because of our running backs. And Kevin Box remembered that. Do you remember that, Suzanne?
I was actually a freshman that year. Kevin Box was in the band as a freshman because he was a really good percussionist. And I was a freshman that year, and freshmen weren't on the twirling line yet. But there were stories told of that Amarillo Sandy game often about the fact that they did that.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Jeannie, what about you? Do you recall a time when the field was horrible, or the weather? Or...
Well, I don't remember a specific game, but I do remember that there were times when it would sleet. Whenever it sleet, the baton just becomes so slick. There'd be times when it would hurt if you threw the baton, it hit your hand because it was so cold. And so it's similarly to that. If icy at all, then that changes the dynamic of the field. And we had those times when you'd be out on the field and suddenly it would start sleeting for a little bit, and it just, it was brutal. You just kept going. But I also remembered that, and maybe I'm thinking a little bit about Texas Tech, but artificial turf is extremely slick as well when it gets wet. So any of those, whether it's grass or turf, if you get any kind of moisture at all, it just really changes the dynamic. And then also you have the lights that you're contending with in the dark. And when you throw your baton up, there's a lot of reflection. So you have to be able to really understand where you are and where your baton is. And all those things play into it that, might not be, top of mind if you don't know, from a sport perspective.
Oh, cool.
This is a question for all three of you. Do you have arthritis in your twirling hand?
Guess who does? Big time. See?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I actually have it in my legs, mostly all over my body.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, because, when you're twirling it's a repetitive stress on your hand and your arm and whatever. And so I don't, like people who type a lot get repetitive stress syndrome, or people that now on their phones. Did y'all get any repetitive stress injuries, during the time that you were twirling?
I do. I mean, I have very big knuckles, and I think it's because of all the years I twirled. And like I said, I've had a knee replacement, and that's my turning knee on my left leg. And so I do think that I just put a lot of stress on that knee over the years. And that's not the only thing that I did to stress my knee, but I think that added to it.
Well, when we were all in high school, they didn't consider twirling or cheerleading a sport. And now they're saying that cheerleading is one of the most dangerous sports out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like you, Suzanne. I have 2 artificial hips and I've had 2 knee reconstructions. So I definitely put my body through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go back to the weather?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
There's 2. One was, I was in OT's junior high band, and it was so cold that the valves on the cornets and the valve instruments were freezing. And I'm not sure, maybe the slide on the trombone, but it was so cold. And this was at contest, and I think it was at night at Texas Tech, and it was competition. And the other one was also contest. We were in Amarillo, and the wind, I think, would be a pretty close second to what we had the other day. And I was talking to the flags, because when you watch the other bands out there on the field, well, the wind would catch one of those flags, and the girl would step out of line like it blew her out of line. And I got in there, and we were fixing to go on the field, and I said, girls, you've got to be tougher than that wind. You cannot let it blow you out of line. You be stronger. Don't let that wind beat you. And I mean, I preached, and I mean, I was on a tear. And Mr. Franklin said, boy, I've never heard a speech like that. So it was really bad wind.
Wow. Well, one more question because we're coming up on 2 hours. Cell phones, people take photos, take videos of great, their grandkids or whatever it may be. Jeannie Marie, can you remember a moment if you had your cell phone? It could be fun, it could be great, it could be sad. You can remember a moment you wish you would have captured in video.
Oh, I know there is a video of the state performance. I wish that I had some videos of just our line twirling, where it's a little bit more, it's a closer up perspective of that. And I also just wish I had some of the candid moments when we were, either praying together or just encouraging one another, because the friendships we shared were so, they're among my most cherished friendships to this day. And I can say that from all 4 years of Plainview High School. I just had the most cherished friendships that I've ever had. And, and we have such a close relationship with Jeannie still to this day. I'm so close to her and cherish her deeply. And that's just a blessing. I don't know that everyone is blessed in that way. And so I feel very fortunate. Any of those little snippets, it wouldn't even matter what it was, really.
Jeannie and Fanchon both got twirler their freshman year. So they got to twirl 4 years in high school.
Oh, nice. Nice.
They were perfect.
Was that a first?
I
That
think
was
at the
the first
time that it was, I'm not certain, but I think probably so.
Yeah, that was the year that they went from having
Right.
freshman twirlers to
Right.
dropping the freshman
But I
line.
mean, previously, the years prior to that, was there like an outstanding twirler that could have made? No.
I don't think they considered it.
No.
I know
wow.
when I tried out as a freshman, they didn't let freshmen twirl.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, they used to, but whenever I first was coming onto the line, it was 2 seniors, 2 juniors, and 2 sophomores. It was 2, 2, and 2. And so if you were even the better twirler and you were, you might have been 3 of the better twirlers or sophomores, it didn't matter. They took the 2
That's
best
right.
seniors, 2 best juniors, and 2 best sophomores.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's wow. Weird. Okay. Well,
Dean
Suzanne.
Killian in the later years came over and judged our twirlers for tryouts. Did Dean Killian judge y'all?
He judged me.
Okay, because he came over and judged our twirlers several years.
Oh, I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that either. Wow, that's cool. Suzanne, what about you? What's a cell phone moment?
I would just echo what Jeannie Marie said. I think that those memories that we do have, that even though it's not on a cell phone, it's just instilled in our mind, but more than that, it's instilled in our heart. We just had a bond with those girls that we just loved and respected each other. And I really cherish that. I wish that we did have more snapshots of us, just in the hallway talking and practicing and working things out and laughing and trying something that was silly and we decided not to do it or whatever. I mean, we went through some things that it was trial and error on a lot of things. And I just wish that we, had snapshots of those moments, but you can't take that out of our memory because we have those great memories.
It would have been cool, because like Coach Sherwood had the football players carry the helmets on game day. You guys should have carried your batons, your rifles, and your flags on game day during school. That would have been funny.
Well, they could have become weapons.
OT loved Coach Sherwood. They
Yeah.
always had pep rallies for the band.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that meant so much to the band. And it was so special to OT.
Yeah, so we heard from one of the coaches that when Coach Sherwood was having when he was what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out, Miss Lisa. Nervous. He would go he would go to OT and have lunch with them just to get this, so OT can calm him down. I mean, that was a great story.
I think so.
Miss Pennell, what about you? What moment can you remember if you had a cell phone back then you'd love to take a video of?
If we're talking about the band,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
would be that long line, that ripple, that long line, and where the tosses, there were no drops, and the band marching over that.
Yeah, I agree with Jeannie. It's too bad we didn't have any close-up video. Yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been cool. The other thing I liked is when John Wright did a solo. I think it was senior year when he would sneak in. The flags had a circle, and John would sneak in the middle, and then the flags were open up, and then he would play his solo.
Oh yeah, I remember something like that.
So that would have been my moment. They've been down there with the
Right.
camera.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've been on. Thank you. We've been on for 2 hours. If we can't have our parting words, but Jeanne Marie and Susanne, can you also include in your parting words how Miss Pennell has meant to you, not only during taking lessons in high school, but as an adulthood as well? We'll start with you, Susanne.
Well, I think Jeannie knows, but I will reiterate how much I love her. And Jeannie, I do love you so much. And
I love you.
you have been such an inspiration for all the girls and the guys, anybody that you've taught, anybody that you have mentored, they don't forget you. You've made a lasting impression. And so just thank you for what you instilled in us. Thank you for believing in us. And um, that just goes without saying that we all love you dearly.
I love all of y'all dearly too.
Jeanne Marie?
I mean, I would just echo what Suzanne said. I think, a lifelong mentor. I mean, we've just been so blessed, Jeannie, by you. And I love you, in so many ways. You've been like a second mom or whatever, big sister, whatever you want to call it, just a very important person in my life. And I think it's the character that you've personally displayed and modeled for us. At every turn, you always instilled that we needed to be the same on the field and off of the field, and that character was what really I felt like that was even more important than some of the other things that we were there to learn, because that was something we could carry with us for our entire lives, and we have. And so, you have always been one of my most cherished relationships in my life, and all the friends that friendships that have stemmed from my experience twirling with you and just being friends with you. And I love you dearly.
I had good material to work with, didn't I? And I love y'all so completely dearly.
Well, Miss Pennell, what about your parting words? How do these two ladies mean to you, and all their twirlers?
I just have to say that they made my life. They gave me a good life. It might not have been. And flags and twirlers, you are my life. And I thank you very, very much.
Well said. Miss Lisa, you want to go ahead and close it?
As I listened to your stories, I was thinking back, during that time, and what a magical time it was in Plainview and for Plainview High School, to have this dream team between Jeanne Pennell, the band directors, Coach Sherwood. It was like this magical time. It was a dream team, and how fortunate all of us were to be part of that history in Plainview at PHS, because it was short-lived. Those the championship eras, for everybody, and it just tickles me to death, and it makes me feel a sense of joy and deep pride that I got to be there to witness it, to witness you performing, you teaching and coaching, and to be able to be out on the field, with the cheerleaders, and just to be part of this whole big production, and Michael being in the band, and how blessed we all were. It just makes my heart smile big. And I really appreciate you coming on, and girls coming back again and to join Miss Pennell, and this is my first time getting to visit with you, and I just feel so incredibly honored. Thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And then you started in 79, 80, correct? That's what the year you started sponsoring the twirlers?
Yes, I started teaching them in,
79.
their group, their line, the PHS high school twirlers
Yeah, in
at
79.
junior high
Yes.
in that year.
Well, I'm going to
79.
challenge challenge
79.
Suzanne and Jeannie Marie. Well,
They were
in-
already taking private lessons.
Right. But I'm saying in 2029, if I did my math right, that's 50 years ago that you started at PHS. So you guys should do a reunion.
There you go.
It would be
Seriously.
fun.
And try to get all the
We'll
twirlers.
have to tell Phyllis about it. She'll get it together.
She
Yes,
will.
there you go. She'll
Yeah.
be on our show in 2 weeks, or is it next week? 2 weeks.
Wait,
So yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
seriously, you guys should do that.
Oh,
Yeah, she.
More than to get essentially with that.
Well, I'm sure Virginia would get in there too.
Well, ladies, thank you. Thank you. And Miss Pennell, thank you for taking the time and share all these lovely stories. Definitely enjoyed it. And you see, it was fun. It was fun.
It was. Thank you so much. I
Well,
enjoyed it.
again, let's thank Miss Linda. Linda,
Yes,
thank you.
you're welcome.
So
I love Miss Jeannie too.
I
yes.
didn't know what a podcast was.
how you do?
Well, I should have this published tomorrow. And then I guess Linda can share it with you, or have you come over to watch it. But it was a good show. Very good show. Thank you. You guys shared some things that what do you know about, and now we do. So
We enjoyed it.
yes, and don't be a stranger.
You either.
thank you guys. Love y'all.
Good night.
Love you. Hey,
Bye.
Jeannie too. Love you.
Ah, it was very touching. That's
Sweet.
wow.
My God.
Yeah,
She's
that was
precious, Michael. She's precious.
yeah. And yeah, I knew who she was, but I didn't know her. Not
Yes,
like
I
I mean,
saw her all the time. I
Yeah.
saw her all the time, but I did not know her personally.
yeah.
Um,
But hearing from just Jeannie and Suzanne, I'm pretty sure a lot of twirlers would say the same thing. She touched and a lot of their lives and mold them to be the people, the adult, the parents, the grandparents that they are today. So
this is something I wish I'd said when the ladies were still on, but it just came into my head. Is that one of the things that is a real consistent thing among all these leaders, from Miss Pennell to all the way to Coach Sherwood, is that these coaches, teachers, mentors instilled a sense of pride
yeah,
to such a degree that if you were under their tutelage, that it elevated you as a human being. You wanted to do well for those individuals and then for the collective. And I think that's the commonality of all these leaders, and the fact that they all work together. And so they mirrored that for each other, and whether it was a conscious or unconscious thing, but that's what they brought to the table.
yeah, yeah. Well said. Absolutely, yes. Well, it was fun. Guys, in 2 weeks, we're going to have 2 shows back to back. One of the shows will be Phyllis Wall, who was mentioned earlier, Cindy Wolf, and Rodney Watson. They are the head committee of the All School Reunion, which is going to happen in July. So they're going to come on not only to promote the show, but they're going to tell us a little history about the All School Reunion, because I didn't realize this. It's they've been having it for 50 years. This is a 50-year reunion that and I didn't realize, I didn't know it started back then. And so they're going to tell us a lot about the history, and I can't wait. And the big one is we're going to have our very first podcast that would not include any Plainview classmates or any Plainview people. It's going to be 6 ladies from the class of 79 of Odessa Permian Mojo. So this is one of the things that Lisa and I are going to start doing a little bit more, is expanding and out to other schools. And but we're excited to have these ladies on, and so we're probably going to learn a lot about Odessa High, Permian. I'm sorry, how they grew up.
I
So
know I'm really excited about that. We're going to get an inside peek into, one of our biggest rivals.
yeah, exactly. So
I'm super excited that they all accepted the invitation, and can't wait to hear their stories
yes, and
and also to hear their perception about Plainview.
yeah, exactly. And then I'm working on a Hartford podcast just with Hartford classmates. So that's still in the works. So hopefully in a month or two, or probably 2 months, we'll have them on. But anyway, well, good night, everyone. Lisa, peace and love. Peace and love. Good night.
Good night.